Joining me is Sean Spicer, the first White House spokesman of the then President Donald Trump. Sean Spicer, thanks for your time. Sean, I don't normally credit CNN as a good source for anything, but can I quote from a story that's just published? To Donald Trump, Hungarian strongman Viktor Orban is fantastic. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is brilliant. North Korea's Kim Jong-un is an okay guy. But most alarmingly, allegedly said Adolf Hitler did some good things, multiple former senior advisors told CNN. The sources it quotes on the record are former Trump Chief of Staff John Kelly and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Are they right? Is Donald Trump admiring dictators and autocrats a little too much?
Well, first of all, I've never personally heard him use any of those kind of words with respect to the people that you just mentioned. But let's just say that two things can be true at the same time. Somebody can be a very smart person, but be very evil or mean, do very bad things. Right. And so there's a difference. How Trump is describing them, if you take things out of context, I can say I really like such, or I think so-and-so is a smart person, but they do bad things. As I said, let's be clear. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. And the context in which these things said is important, which, of course, these quotes are lacking.
Well, that's actually true. John Kelly was claiming that Donald Trump admired Hitler's economic policies. I'm not sure I would at all, but that's not to say he admired the Holocaust or the war or anything like that. So I think you're quite right in that respect. But to the broader point, particularly with Donald Trump's admiration of Vladimir Putin in the past, is he a little too inclined to admire strongmen?
Well, look, whether he admires them or not, and again, it's all relative to the aspects, the qualities that he's telling about. Like, you can say somebody's tough and strong. That doesn't mean it's a good quality. It's just maybe a reality of the situation. But more importantly, look at this is what I think gets lost in this, Andrew. Look at the foreign policy under the 4 years of Donald Trump versus the 3 years of Joe Biden. Regardless of what he thought about Vladimir Putin, for the first time in how many administrations, Vladimir Putin didn't annex or go to war with any of his neighbors during the 4 years of Trump, right? So you can say what you will about what Trump thinks about him, but the reality is that for 4 years, we had a Russia that was contained. For 4 years, we had a much better relationship with North Korea in terms of them releasing hostages, not being as provocative as they are now. China was much more contained. In fact, I think President Xi was on his heels the entire time, not wondering what Donald Trump would do, trying to be concerned about the policies in the act. China was much more defensive than they are now, with Joe Biden admitting that calling out the Biden administration, admitting that they have full-on plans to take over Taiwan. If not, it's not a question of if, but when. Growing more provocative in both military and economic fronts. So this is a distraction, frankly, I think, from the reality of what matters to America. Are we safe? Are we more prosperous? Are we trading more? Are our interests being protected?
President Biden is sounding more anti-Israeli by the day. He started off as a firm supporter of Israel, as you know. This week has attacked Israel's prime minister for going too far, allegedly, in the war with the Hamas terrorist group. Here he is.
He must pay more attention to the innocent lives being lost as a consequence of the actions taken.
Now, why the change in tone, Sean? And add to that, why doesn't Donald Trump now exploit this change by showing firm support for Israel and really wedging Joe Biden?
Yeah, to answer the latter first, I wish he would. This is definitely an issue where I think Republican strength, and this goes back to what I said a moment ago, could really point out the contrast that exists. So that's number one. Number two, let's be clear to what the president said. The only people who took innocent lives to begin this conflict was Hamas. Like, they attacked Israel unprovoked, killed innocent civilians, took women and children as hostages, and still maintain them. Frankly, still maintain U.S. citizens as hostages. Where's the president? I didn't hear one iota. I haven't heard anything, and frankly, probably well over a month, about the concern for U.S. citizens. He's more concerned about the retaliatory strike that U.S. is having, that Israel is having on the people that attack them unprovoked. Look, you asked what's causing this. the bottom line is this: electoral politics are what the issue is. Joe Biden flip-flopped again. He used to be a very big supporter of Israel until he realized that places like Michigan were getting put into play because he has, his support for Israel was undermining his electoral strategy in a key state, and also with a key demographic, not just Arab and Muslim Americans, but younger Americans. So the reality is that this is Joe Biden playing politics. The old Joe Biden would have stood firm with Israel, but because, we're in an election year, he can't, and his base is creating massive problems for him.
Well, to the Academy Awards last night, I'm sure you were riveted to the screen, Sean, given your own starring role once at the Emmys. But Donald Trump posted a review online that host Jimmy Kimmel read out to the audience, which confirmed, I would suspect, for every single viewer that Hollywood is left-wing. Here is that exchange.
I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less-than-average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed-up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos. He would make everybody on stage look bigger, stronger, and more glamorous, blah, 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 make America great again. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still, isn't it past your jail time?
Sean Spicer, your reaction to that?
I wish he wouldn't give them the bait. Look, first of all, I didn't watch the Oscars. I mean, the last thing I want to do is add my one vote by watching it to somehow affirming the need to care what Hollywood thinks about themselves. So I don't tune into shows like that. Even if it just makes me feel better not to watch it. But secondly, I think the president, gives them something to go off. I wish he wouldn't do it. I get that's who he is. He can't help himself sometimes. But look, it's no surprise that he's a big movie buff, and I'm sure he wanted to see who won. But, look, Hollywood is owned by the left, as you pointed out. They hate folks on the right, especially what we stand for. They suppress content of stuff that frankly does much better than it talks about Sound of Freedom. There's a new movie, Cabrini, out. All these movies that actually are good, wholesome movies, they suppress. They don't really care about. I'm glad he called them out to some degree, but I wish he wouldn't give them the fodder to do that.
It cuts across the more presidential tone he's been trying to adopt lately.
Yeah, when it comes to that, I think that's long gone. I think Donald Trump's got his own style. It's unique to who he is. I think that's why a lot of people love him, because he will do it. But, every once in a while, I feel like you're just giving them what they want. And so for that reason, again, it is who he is. It's how he became the success that he did in politics, because he speaks his mind. But, every once in a while, I just go, don't let them get the better of you.
Sean Spicer, no doubt you thought that once, more than once, when you were his spokesman, making your life just that little bit harder at the time. Thank you so much for your time here.
You bet, Andrew.